it is time to hit it. It's time for the Daily Basis. Craig, at least I still have fun with that. Yesterday, Craig, opener of the midweek set inside Yankee Stadium between the Reds and the Pinstripes. It was Cincy getting on board early and often. The Yankees tried to rally, but were held off. A 5-4 victory for the Reds in the opener. And really the story was another bad outing for Luis Gil, who was the American League Rookie of the Year favorite, maybe an AL Cy Young contender at the end of May. But since June 1st, 6 starts, a 6.84 ERA, 16 earned runs given up in his last 3 starts here for New York. You put that in comparison to his run in May, a perfect 6-0 record with a sub-1 ERA at 0.70. What's the issue been for Gil?
Yeah, I mean, look, you could call it the rookie wall. I mean, I think that's in play. Imanaga is going through the same thing or went through the same thing with the Cubs. You also look at Gil and his workload. He's going to surpass all innings limits that he's had previously, too. So I would guess at some point this turns back in the right direction for him. But it just stands to reason that it's just extremely hard to count on a young pitcher like this who just doesn't have a lot of innings behind him over the course of his career in August and September. So, that's the positive thing for the Yankees is that Gil got him to this point. I mean, look, the Yankees a year ago were not where they were right now. So I think that you look at Gil and you shake his hand and I guess you pat him on the back and say, hey, great job. But there certainly is a chance he's just not the same guy in the second half of the season. He's a young pitcher. Teams get better. Advanced scouting is very good. Things change. Maybe he is good in the second half of the season, but I just don't see him been throwing 180 innings this year. And, so certainly some change is going to happen with him.
Yeah, they would love to see him regain that form that he had earlier in the season. We'll see if he can do that. But big Marlins news yesterday, Craig, that you did break here. Joining Avisail Garcia, you see now Tim Anderson being released by the Miami Marlins. What's going on with inside that Marlins locker room? Because the one thing I will ask you is we've always known the Marlins to sort of penny pinch with that payroll here, but they're releasing guys that they paid some pretty good money to here.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Donnie. I mean, you really think about it, some of the moves that they've made recently, kind of crazy. First move that they made back in, I believe it was late April, early May, I can't remember. They traded Luis Arias to the Padres and are paying his salary for the remainder of the season. Then they cut Avisail Garcia. They're paying his salary for this year and next year. They let go of Tim Anderson. They're paying his salary too. So really the money factor isn't there. At this point, what's happening is that the Marlins are looking ahead to the future here, and there's just no point in carrying around dead money on players anymore. They sent money to the Padres to get a better return on the Arias trade. Remains to be seen if that's the case. Eating the money on Garcia so some younger players can play. And with Tim Anderson, Donnie, simply put, the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak, was Sunday. I don't know if you guys caught this, but like a really easy double play hit to Tim Anderson. He just botched it, and they lost the game, So is he going to play again in the future in Major League Baseball? I don't know the answer to that, but he certainly has had this downward spiral for the last couple of years. It's rare to see this sort of thing happen to a player this young.
Just a few years ago in Chicago, as the shortstop for the White Sox, was becoming the face of the franchise, one of the more energetic and young players in MLB. It has been a quick downward spiral, unfortunately, for Tim Anderson. Yesterday, a rough day for the Fish. They lose 8-3 to the Red Sox at home. And Craig, at Lone Depot Park yesterday, we were hoping for history. The Marlins were trying to organize the longest continuous crowd wave to to set a new Guinness World, not a rave, a longest crowd consecutive wave to set a new Guinness Book of World Records mark, and it was canceled. Craig, give us the inside scoop here. What happened?
Yeah, I've got a couple of different people telling me a couple of different things here. I just think in the end, factor number one is that they were going to do this, I guess, after the game. And, the fans, after watching a baseball game, win or lose, they want those fireworks tonight. The Marlins are doing it tonight. So there would have been a little delay in between that. And then the second thing is, let's just call it what it is. You don't know how many people are showing up for these games at night. You don't know. So to just assume that you're guaranteed to make this happen at any baseball game, let alone the Marlins, who we know have struggled with attendance, I don't know. It's to me just a strange idea to begin with, and I don't think fans will miss it one bit tonight. They'll just have their fireworks after the game. Honestly, I don't know what happened here. I from start to finish, bizarre deal.
Maybe we'll see some fireworks here in the Windy City. Yesterday, Trey Turner provided those fireworks for the Philadelphia Phillies. Today, it's Wheeler versus Imanaga, two aces on the mound. The Phillies are a slight favorite today. Can the good times keep going, and can the Phillies maybe get to a 10-game lead after tonight if they beat the Chicago Cubs?
They just keep winning. Doesn't matter who's in the lineup, to say the least. But look, the Phillies pitching, especially with Wheeler, Nola, and Suarez, coming back to earth a little bit too. Maybe they need a break coming up here for the Major League Baseball All-Star game. So you see a pick'em and you look at these two pitchers and you say, my gosh, this could potentially be an under. I'm not so sure. I think we could see some runs scored today. Just keep on that wind, by the way, always at Wrigley Field. That is really the key. Also, by the way, shout out to John Shames' last day, I know, here at SportsGrid. I know you guys will talk about this, later. I'll talk about it on Newswire, but thanks for everything, Shames. You've been, amazing. I mean, the adult film industry is going to be very competitive for you. I want to warn you in advance. But thank you again for everything you've done.
A full card on this Wednesday around Major League Baseball. Same story tomorrow for the 4th of July, America's pastime on America's B-Day. It's a lot of baseball breakdowns coming your way to end out this final half hour of our final show before the long holiday weekend. An ace affair that we looked at early with Craig Mish inside the friendly confines today. It's Shota Imanaga getting the start for Chicago. Zach Wheeler on the other side for the Phils. The Phillies, albeit shorthanded offensively, led by Trey Turner yesterday, win the opener in Chicago 6-4 over the Cubbies. They were an underdog yesterday. The favorites with Zach Wheeler on the bump today.
Yeah, Zach Wheeler should be able to handle his business today. It's not a heavy favorite for the Philadelphia Phillies, who I think are a better overall team. And also, you take a look at the last game, which I was at with Zach Wheeler going up against the Marlins. He pitched very well into the 7th inning, but had a high pitch count, left the game with the lead. By the time the game was over, the Philadelphia Phillies and their bullpen had blown that game. So I'm expecting a better pitching performance out of him, or should I say a more efficient pitching performance out of him. The question to me is not Zach Wheeler and what I'm going to get out of this Phillies lineup, which all of a sudden isn't that good due to some injuries. It's what I'm actually going to get from the Chicago Cubs starting pitcher, Shota Imanaga. The one thing we did know, Ben, if you're looking at late March, early April, and May, maybe the best pitcher overall in baseball. But in the month of June, he's fallen on some hard times here. A couple of those games, certainly not indicative of what he was doing at the beginning of the season. And if you're looking at his statistics, 348 batters he's faced on the season, a 127 ISO and a weighted on base percentage of 282, which is spectacularly good. That also includes June. But if we just take a look at basically June, that goes from a 127 ISO up to a 198, a weighted on base percentage of 282 up to a 348. He's hittable right now, and I expect Wheeler to keep those bats down for the Cubs. Under is probably a good look here, but I like the Phillies at that price point, minus 127, minus 128 in that range.
Yeah, not a very big number on baseball's best team. The Phils have 56 wins, 56 and 29, best record in all of MLB. Zach Wheeler has been great, and to your point on Imanaga, his first 9 starts in his MLB career, a perfect 5-0 record with a .84 ERA. Then he gave up 7 earned in his final start in the month of May, and in June, he made 5 starts, gave up 17 total earned runs. Yes, 10 of those came in his second to last start against the New York Mets, but now the record is 7-2 with a .307 ERA for Shota Imanaga. I would look at the Phils as well in the Cubs, who were 11-16 in June, now 11-17 with their first loss in July yesterday. The Atlanta Braves, first game in July yesterday as well, with Reynaldo Lopez on the bump, come up a little bit lame against San Francisco. The Giants winning 5-3 in the opener of this midweek set in the ATL. Chris Sale gets the start today, who has been great this year for the Braves. They're nearly a $2 favorite, as they were yesterday in the opening game of this set.
Yeah, you just take a look at this, and it's like, the last time we saw, I believe, Chris Sale on the mound, who's a -300 favorite, I want to say against the Chicago White Sox. I think they lost that game 1-0. It's not his fault. In particular, a lot of these pitchers that are taking losses for the Atlanta Braves, or if they do take a loss, it's really not their fault. You go 6 innings pitched and go 3 or less runs, you expect to win that baseball game. But the fact of the matter is Atlanta is struggling at the plate. Now, they're home. Do you want to lay a -200 price or better, which is probably what it's going to wind up by the time you see game time? Not necessarily, but if we are looking at the road pitching performances of Jordan Hicks on the season, 36 and 2/3 innings. He's got a 3.68 ERA, which is fairly solid, but that climbs a little bit there with that xFIP number of 4.42, something to keep an eye on. Yeah. The better pitcher by far on the mound here to me is with Atlanta, but I can't lay a 2-1 price where I say to myself, well, what am I going to score? 3, maybe 4 runs? It should be good enough to win, but not enough for a price point there. I take a look at that 8. Now, granted, we're Atlanta. It's 90-degree temperatures. It'll be hot, muggy. The wind is blowing a little bit in. I don't know if we get the 9 runs today because I expect Hicks to be okay and I expect Sale to be very good. So it might just be the better bet as opposed to a side, just taking that under 8 total.
Atlanta, once again, the highest under percentage in Major League Baseball. 62% of the games overall this year for the Braves have hit the under. The Dodgers walked it off yesterday in the Ravine in the opener against the Arizona Diamondbacks. 2-run shot from Shohei Ohtani, and maybe one of the better offseason acquisitions in all of the sport. Teoscar Hernandez, he has been sensational in his first year in L.A. 3 RBIs yesterday, including the walk-off winner, the RBI single in the bottom of the 9th. Today, the Dodgers a hefty favorite once again against the D-backs, -205. Total is 9. Large price in Atlanta. You said not worth the vig. How about here in Los Angeles?
You might be looking at maybe a team total here for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, granted, you know me, Ben. I don't really like all of a sudden just to go crazy on a guy that I see coming up from the minor leagues and is not yet to pitch in Major League Baseball and say to yourself, how do we think he's going to perform? But sometimes you take a look at there's differences between pitchers that are coming up. You have Paul Skeens coming up. Wow, we expect big things, high strikeout guy, and if he dominates, we expect that. You take a look at Christian Nina, who's expected to start today. Let's just go back to his last 6 starts in the minor leagues, which is all in AAA. 4 runs earned, 7 runs earned, 5 runs earned, 2 runs earned, 4 and 4 back-to-back. And it's not as if he's throwing, hey, every game it's 8 innings. Most of those games are 5 innings pitched with all those runs given up. That's at AAA. Now you're stepping into Major League Baseball and playing one of those lineups. You don't want to step in and say, well, I don't know if I should be in Major League Baseball or not. The Dodgers should roll in this game, but more than likely, the Ohtani's on the board, the Freddie Freeman's on the board, the Jason Hayward's on the board. Just taking that normal left-hand, right-hand split, you should do some damage. We should get some RBI action from the Dodgers tonight with a victory.
It is kind of crazy, Donnie. You made this point about Aaron Judge before. Best batting average in MLB, most home runs in MLB, most RBIs in all of baseball. Shohei Ohtani has the second best batting average at 320 and leads the National League in home runs, hitting his 27th yesterday. Judge and Ohtani, the minus money odds-on favorites to win the MVP awards in their respective leagues. Of course, Aaron Judge, the American League, Ohtani now in the NL. And keep an eye on Gavin Stone, the starter today for Los Angeles, 9-2 this year with a 2.73 ERA. He has won 5 of his last 6 starts. He has been lights out for Los Angeles. Lights out yesterday for the Texas Rangers early and often against the San Diego Padres. Dylan Cease got the start. San Diego was a slight favorite on the road in Texas. They had won 9 of their last 11 entering for a Rangers team that was struggling the week prior. They had dropped 6 straight. Finally won a game on Sunday Night Baseball against the Baltimore Orioles, and then everything changed. The Rangers scored 7 runs, 6 of them earned against Dylan Cease. Texas blowing out San Diego 7-0 in the opener in Arlington. Today, a hefty favorite as well for the Rangers. What do you like?
Yeah, you know what's interesting about that, too, because Dylan Cease was one of the best pitchers on the card yesterday and got handled here. Now let's take a look at the opposite end of the spectrum. Now, we don't have a lot of starts here for Mazur, who's going to be on the mound here, the right-handed pitcher for the San Diego Padres. But he does have 22 1/3 innings pitched this season, an ERA 7.25, an xFIP number 6.53. You should be able to get those quality at-bats here out of a Texas Rangers lineup that hasn't been all that good over the past 30 days. So if you say to yourself, well, I don't know if I want to side, we should get runs tonight because Gray's not a great pitcher on the opposite side with a very good hitting lineup for the Padres. Maybe the total is in the best interest tonight in this game to go over 9, which means you need 10 runs, and I think they can get there.
Yesterday, total was 7.5. It stayed under because San Diego did not score, but Dylan Cease allowed more runs than probably we expected. Very low scoring game in the Northwest. Just 2-0 last night. Baltimore blanking Seattle to win the opener. The O's have won 5 of their last 6. The Mariners have dropped 9 of their last 12. We do it again tonight out in Seattle. You said earlier in the show, DRS, you would be keeping an eye on the M's to bounce back. They're the favored side tonight. How come?
I'll lay it minus 118 here. I do like the pitching matchup here because if we're taking a look at home pitching performances, Logan Gilbert, how about this? A 2.70 ERA and a 3.11 xFIP number. Love to see that. Now, on the other side, Dean Kramer is your average pitcher for the Baltimore Orioles. Struggled to start the season, goes on the IL, but his last 3 starts and those rehab starts, they were terrible in the minors. I think that might extend tonight. It's a cheap price here tonight on the Mariners, and I'm willing to take it.
Plenty more games to break down for you around MLB in this full Wednesday slate. Up next, we'll give you some bets in baseball coming your way here on the Early Line. Welcome back to the Early Line on this Wednesday. A full slate of Major League Baseball. This, a baseball show as the breakdowns continue, courtesy of one Donnie Rightside. Tonight in the 6th, it is game number 3 of this 4-game midweek set between the Blue Jays and the Astros. Houston won the opener. They had won 10 of their last 11 entering last night. The Blue Jays even up the first 2 games of this set yesterday, despite the Astros trying to rally. Houston, though, still victorious in 10 of its last 12. The Blue Jays still struggling. A virtual pick'em tonight in the 6th between the Astros and the Blue Jays. Who gets the dub?
And it probably should be a relative pick-em here. Let me explain what's so tough sometimes when you're handicapping these situations. You take a look at Yusei Kikuchi and say, well, what term would mean the most tonight that you want to look at? Well, how does he do at home? 52 2/3 innings pitched at home this year, Ben. He's got a 4.30 ERA, which isn't great, but one of the better xFIPs on the card today at 3.18 is okay. He's comfortable pitching at home, and a lot of Major League Baseball pitchers would rather pitch at home than on the road. But if you take a look at his last 30 days and go off that non-analytical approach and start to take a look at what's happened on the field, ISO power numbers, weighted on base percentages here, he's a 222 ISO and a 371 weighted on base percentage. And from a player who typically is a left-handed pitcher, should be able to dominate left-handed batters, he can't get any of those guys out and is still struggling also with right-handed batters. Then you take a look at that Astros lineup, and let's just take a look at the first 5 guys based on left-handed pitching over the past 30 days, and we use weighted on base percentage. 646 for Altuve, Bregman 375, Alvarez 507, Diaz 313, and then Jake Myers at a 397. So it's what have you done for me lately might carry the day, because Kikuchi isn't a named pitcher per se, but he has pitched better at home. And Renaud Blanco on the other side hasn't been fantastic in his road starts either. I might be looking at more of a total in this spot because I love the way Altuve, Bregman present themselves. Your RBI shots probably coming from those 3 guys at the top here. I like the way the bats are coming around for Houston. I think we get a total to the over as opposed to that pick 'em side for me.
A lot of runs yesterday, 7-6. That's 13 total runs in the second game between the Astros and the Blue Jays. And Yordan Alvarez, as Houston has played much better baseball, he has been electric at the dish. Another 3-run shot yesterday. I think it's fair to say, though, DRS, despite maybe being worse on the road than in H-Town, Renaud Blanco has been the best starter for Houston this year, an 8-3 mark with a 2.49 ERA. That's 7th best in all of Major League Baseball. The Royals felt like the right side yesterday, hosting the Rays. A long delay, though, for Kansas City. Never really got back from it. They dropped the opener against Tampa at Kauffman 5-1. Today, it's a pick'em here. Total at 8.5. What do you like in KC?
Another tough one here. I love this fact that we're getting a lot of pick'ems and not those, hey, minus 250, who do you think's going to win the game? When obviously you would think the favorite would do that. Let's take a look at Pepiot. And yesterday on the Hill, I thought the better pitcher on the mound was on the Kansas City Royals. Didn't work out in my fashion. And if we were just using those splits, home and away, it should have been a victory for me on paper for the Royals. Didn't work out that way. Ryan Pepiot's on the mound. Now, as I told you yesterday, if you had a pitcher that usually pitches better at home, they're more comfortable there. But the Trop, one of those pure pitchers' ballparks here. Going on the road, typically your numbers will be worse. That's really the opposite for Ryan Pepiot. Take a look at this. A 3.46 ERA through 26 innings pitched on the road and a 3.10 xFIP number. That's fantastic. And also, you're trying to weigh it against what the Kansas City Royals have done over the past month against right-handed pitching. They've been absolutely sensational. You look again, 7 of those 9 guys above in ISO power numbers and weighted on base percentage. If you flip it over to the other side and say, what can Tampa Bay do? Walker's an okay pitcher. Last 30 days, a 128 ISO, fits right in line, weighted on base percentage 310. But you also have a lot of those guys against right-handed pitching on the Tampa Bay Rays doing some damage. Would they score 5 runs yesterday? Kansas City, I believe, only 1 run yesterday. Even though these pitchers are lining up, still good temperature, 77 degrees, blowing out the left field. I'll buck those trends here where Pepiot's been fantastic on the road. I think we get runs in this game. I do. Both of these lineups set up pretty well. Let's go with the over in this game also.
Yeah, I like the look there. The Rays have been playing pretty good baseball as of late. Winners of 10 of their last 14. Now a game above 500, the American League East. 4 of the 5 teams with a winning record at this moment. We've showed you 2 games back-to-back. Virtual pick'ems, a couple more that we have looked at where there's not all that much difference in those money line numbers. Yesterday, Donnie, 15 games, full Tuesday card in Major League Baseball. 10 of the 15 decided by 2 runs or less. There's not super big marquee matchups in the sport as maybe you would expect as we head into the 4th of July holiday tomorrow, America's pastime, America's birthday, as we've said numerous times, but some really competitive baseball yesterday, and the odds makers expect that to continue on this Wednesday. Not really in Atlanta or LA, and not necessarily in New York. The Yankees did lose yesterday 5-4 to the Reds in the opener. They were a $2 favorite. The Reds a big underdog in the Bronx, and still a pretty big underdog today against Carlos Rodon and the Yankees, who are just 4-11 since June 14th. The Pinstripes have dropped 11 of their last 15. Are you starting to get concerned about the Yankees?
Oh, I am concerned about the Yankees a little bit, and also concerned on the mound today with Carlos Rodon. If you just take a look at his last 30 days, 122 batters, Ben, he's faced. That's a 259 ISO and a 408 weighted on base percentage. You got runs yesterday. It's identical. Yesterday, 8.5 total, got the 9 runs. I think we might be into a similar thing. Now, also, if we're looking at Rodon, I do expect the Reds to hit, but so many times the focus is always going to be on that Yankees lineup and who do you think that can do some damage. Again, temperature 75 degrees, wind blowing out to left. That should help. But also, Andrew Abbott, he does have some pretty good stuff as a young left-handed pitcher, but if we're taking a look at those splits, home and away, he's not that good on the road, Ben. You take a look at this season, 51 1/3 innings pitched on the road, a 3.48 ERA, which is very good. But how about that xFIP number at a 5? You don't want to do that with that Yankees lineup. First 3 guys, Volpe, Soto, and Judge, absolutely hammering left-handed pitching with very good weighted on base percentages here. I don't know if I want to back Rodon at close to a 2-1 price. I don't think I want to take Andrew Abbott on the road, as I just told you. He struggles with that xFIP number. So again, leaning on an over in this game. This one much more than the past 2 that we talked about. I think both of these pitchers can be had tonight. We should get 9 runs similar to what we saw last night in the Bronx.
The Yanks tried to rally. Aaron Judge cut it to just a 1-run difference yesterday with a solo shot, his 32nd of the year in the 7th. Aaron Judge to hit a home run today, plus 200. Shohei Ohtani to hit a home run today. He hit a 2-run bomb yesterday in LA, also a 2-1 number.